As the Assad government falls, Israel seizes more territory in Syria's Golan Heights. That move tears up a decades-old agreement, but Israeli far-right ministers claim their country's borders should extend further to Damascus. So world's attention was fixed on Damascus as the Assad government crumbled, but Israel's focus remained on southern Syria. In a decisive move, Israeli tanks rolled into Syrian territory adjacent to the occupied Golan Heights, tearing apart a long-standing international agreement that had designated the area as a buffer zone. The sound of fighter jets filled the skies as Israeli warplanes launched strikes on Damascus, targeting what they claimed were weapons depots. So meanwhile, the Israeli military issued warnings to civilians in southern Syrian villages, urging them to stay indoors. Among Israel's political elite, the far right had been vocal about their vision for a greater Israel, which they claimed was rooted in ancient scriptures. So they argued that Syrian territory, including Damascus, was part of this expansionist ideology. But were these plans a fringe fantasy or a calculated step in exploiting Syria's chaos? Shortly after the removal of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, Israeli tanks advanced into the buffer zone in the Golan Heights. So villagers in the region were forced into hiding as the military operation unfolded. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu described the incursions as temporary, claiming they were necessary for Israel's security amidst ongoing conflicts with Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon. He attributed Assad's fall to Israel's forcible actions against Iran and Hezbollah, framing the collapse as a ripple effect of Israel's campaign to destabilize its adversaries. Yet this military maneuver raised concerns. Some analysts speculated that Israel, the political vacuum in Syria, as an opportunity to expand its territory. Among the far-right ministers, Bezalel Smotrich had been particularly vocal, presenting a vision of a Jewish state extending across parts of the Middle East, including Damascus. So a French documentary, Smotrich articulated his belief that Israel's sovereignty should encompass lands from the sea to the Jordan and beyond, invoking religious texts to justify this expansion. So meanwhile, Syria's opposition leader, Abu Muhammad al-Julani, sought to rally support, celebrating Assad's downfall as a turning point for the region. However, the new leadership's stance on Israel and Iran remained unclear. Media reports from Damascus indicated heightened tension as Israeli forces targeted sites across southern Syria, including key weapon depots. The broader implications of these actions drew scrutiny. Was Israel attempting to secure its borders or laying the groundwork for a more permanent presence in Syria? Observers noted that with Hamas weakened and Hezbollah under pressure, Israel appeared emboldened to reshape the geopolitical landscape. Experts weighed in. Robert G. Pinfold, an academic specializing in international peace and security, remarked that Israel seemed to be acting unilaterally to maximize its security. He noted the irony of Israel seeking a buffer zone to protect an existing buffer zone, raising questions about the long-term implications of such strategies. So in Tel Aviv, Akiva Eldar, a veteran journalist, provided a different perspective. He suggested that the Israeli government might be leveraging the Syrian crisis to distract from domestic issues such as Netanyahu's corruption trial and public discontent. While Eldar dismissed far-right rhetoric about conquering Damascus as unrealistic, he acknowledged the growing assertiveness of Netanyahu's administration in regional affairs. Salma Daoudi, a Syria researcher, highlighted the precarious situation on the ground. She described Israel's actions as an exploitation of Syria's instability, warning that these aggressions could undermine the country's fragile transition. With Israeli tanks advancing and airstrikes intensifying, fears grew among civilians in Damascus and beyond. The situation underscored a stark reality. Syria's political turmoil had created a vacuum, attracting multiple external players. Beyond Israel, powers like Turkey and the United States had also established footholds in Syria, complicating efforts for a peaceful resolution. As the dust settled, questions lingered. Was Israel's incursion a temporary measure, as Netanyahu, or the beginning of a broader territorial ambition? For now, the future of Syria remained uncertain, with its sovereignty under siege and its people caught in the crossfire of regional power struggles. So in the ever-evolving political landscape of Israel, one factor remains constant. Actions are taken because they can be, not necessarily because they should be. Yet, as political analyst Robert highlighted, the ability to act does not guarantee the sustainability of such actions. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu finds himself in an exceptionally precarious position. Personal legal battles and political challenges have left him heavily reliant on figures like Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, whose vision for the region is as contentious as it is ambitious. Smotrich envisions a reshaped Middle East, but the feasibility of these dreams hinges significantly on external factors, including the potential return of Donald Trump to the U.S. presidency. Under a Trump administration, the regional dynamics could shift dramatically. Historically, Trump sought to broker peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia, a goal that could sideline Smotrich's more expansionist ambitions in favor of broader regional alliances aimed at countering Iran. Netanyahu's government faces a crucial choice where Smotrich's vision of territorial expansion or capitalize on opportunities for regional peace. Trump's previous term saw significant support for Israel, including the recognition of Jerusalem as its capital and sovereignty over the Golan Heights. However, as Robert noted, the new Trump may no longer be bound by the same political considerations. Free from the need to court Jewish voters or donors, Trump could pivot toward policies that prioritize broader strategic goals over unilateral Israeli interests. So meanwhile, the Syrian opposition grapples with internal fragmentation and governance challenges in a nation still reeling from years of conflict. As Selma explained, the collapse of Damascus and the absence of a cohesive governing force have left a vacuum. Opposition groups, struggling to align ideologically, face the monumental task of stabilizing liberated areas while dealing with Israel's aggressive maneuvers. Israel, seizing the moment, has moved to secure buffer zones within Syrian territory. With no immediate threat from a fractured Syrian opposition and weakened state institutions, these actions further entrench its position. So Selma emphasized this creates a paradox. While Syria's opposition focuses on rebuilding and addressing humanitarian crises, Israel's incursions complicate any efforts toward sovereignty or stability. Historically, Israel has leveraged facts on the ground to solidify territorial gains. As Robert explained, this strategy transforms negotiations, forcing concessions from adversaries in exchange for even partial withdrawals. The long-term question is whether Israel's current expansion will solidify into a prolonged occupation or remain a tactical maneuver. From a strategic perspective, as analyst Key highlighted, Israel's actions transcend mere territorial acquisition. So strikes on Syrian nuclear facilities and concerns over chemical weapons underscore a broader security doctrine preemptively neutralizing threats before they materialize. Yet, Key these moves cannot fully address the underlying Palestinian issue, a challenge that remains central to Israel's long-term peace and stability. To Syria, the vacuum left by Russia's retreat from border areas once guaranteed by Moscow has further destabilized the region. Selma painted a grim picture: fragmented opposition groups, competing territorial claims, and the pressing need for governance reforms have left the country vulnerable to external powers like Israel. The absence of strong allies such as Iran or Russia has only deepened Syria's challenges, creating an environment ripe for exploitation. As Robert concluded, the Syrian landscape remains one of uncertainty. Lines on a map no longer reflect realities on the ground, with foreign forces occupying significant portions of the country. So Israel's actions, while currently advantageous, could complicate future negotiations and create enduring geopolitical tensions. The Middle East is at a crossroads where shifting alliances and power vacuums redefine national borders and regional politics. As Israel pushes its strategic ambitions and Syria seeks a path toward stability, the international community faces pressing stakes about sovereignty, security, and the prospects for peace. What are your those about it? Tell us in the comments. Thank you for joining us on Inside Story of Israel attacks on Syria. So make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest updates.